I found a half-empty bottle of vodka in my 16-year-old daughter's bedroom, and next to it, a vape pen and a small bag of marijuana. 3 months ago, I might have reacted like any other parent. Shock, anger, grounding. But 3 months ago feels like another lifetime. Because 3 months ago, we didn't know she was dying. It started with a visit to the hospital, just to check on some persistent symptoms. The scan came back with the kind of news that rearranges your entire existence. Late-stage brain cancer. The doctors were clear. Survival was unlikely. We tried anyway. Treatments, consultations, the endless carousel of hope and heartbreak. But the scans didn't improve. The tumor didn't shrink. And she knows. My daughter knows. When my wife confronted her about what she'd found, my daughter didn't deny it. She looked us both in the eye and said, "I'm not going to make it to 18. I just want to try these things while I still can. I'm being careful. I'm not being stupid. The thing is, I've used these substances. I live in a legal state. I smoke the occasional cigarette, roll myself a joint from time to time, have a drink. I know the difference between safe and unsafe use. And I know exactly where the lines are, or at least I thought I did. My wife is different. She drinks a glass of wine now and then, but she's never liked nicotine or marijuana. When she found those things in our daughter's room, her first instinct was to shut it all down, to say absolutely not, to try to protect our little girl from the things we'd normally shield her from, as if protecting her from substances might somehow protect her from cancer. But the reality is, our daughter's future, the one we imagined, the one with college and road trips and first apartments, that future has already been taken from her. And what's left is a matter of months, maybe less than 6. We sat down, the three of us. The air between us was thick with unspoken things. Grief, fear, love that's almost unbearable in its intensity. I told my wife we could make an exception, not because we were giving up, not because we were bad parents, but because when you know your child's time is short, you start to measure life differently. You start to see the things you'd normally forbid as part of the tapestry of experiences she'll never otherwise get. We agreed, reluctantly, that she could do these things under my supervision, that they would come from licensed stores, not from strangers on the street, that she'd be safe, that we'd protect her not from life, but from danger. My wife nodded, but her eyes said something else. She was agreeing to the words, but her heart was still saying no. And I understand why. For her, every sip of alcohol, every puff of smoke is a reminder, not just that our daughter is dying, but that she's old enough to be doing these things at all. It's one more piece of innocence stripped away, and we have so little left to hold on to. Then, one night, we talked about bucket lists. The idea came up in the comments when I shared this story online. People said, give her reasons to get out of bed in the morning. Fill her days with things to look forward to. Some of the suggestions were wild. Some were sweet. Concerts, tattoos, favorite meals, small adventures. Things that might seem reckless in a normal life, but in a shortened one. They're just life. Hospice nurses chimed in too. They said, let her live while she can still enjoy it. Hospice isn't just for the very end. It's about comfort and quality of life. One even reminded me that marijuana can help with pain and appetite, that in her professional opinion, this was more than just indulgence. It was care. And yet, I keep thinking about my wife, about how hard it must be for her to agree to this, about how maybe, deep down, she thinks that by holding on to the old rules, she's holding on to hope. That if she just says no to this, then maybe she's saying no to the idea of losing her. But we can't stop the clock by pretending it isn't ticking. The truth is, my daughter isn't on medication anymore. We made that decision together. She didn't want to go through more rounds of chemo and pills that would only make her sicker without real hope of recovery. At the time, I thought it was because she wanted to live whatever time she had left without the fog of treatments. In hindsight, I wonder if part of her choice was because she knew it wouldn't mix well with the drinking. When I shared that thought online, the responses flooded in. People told stories of their own. Terminally ill friends taken to nightclubs to dance one last time. Nephews whisked out for McDonald's at 3 a.m. Grandparents allowed to eat their favorite foods, even if the doctors had banned them years earlier. They said, when the end is coming, the rules change. The focus becomes happiness and comfort, not prevention. And then came the darker reminders, to watch the combinations, to be careful if she's ever on pain medication again, because mixing can be dangerous. To talk to her doctor about what's safe. These weren't people judging me. They were people who'd been here before, saying, you only get to do this once. Do it right. That's the part that keeps me up at night, because there's no do-over here. Every choice is final. Every moment is finite. Every yes or no carries a weight I can feel in my bones. Sometimes, late at night, I imagine what this would look like if she were healthy. I imagine catching her with vodka at 16, with weed and a vape pen, and the lecture I would have given, the anger I would have felt, the grounding, the threats to call her friends' parents. And then I look at her now, pale, tired, but smiling as she sits on the back porch, the sunset spilling over her shoulders, a glass of something in her hand. I think maybe this is the right kind of rebellion. Still, I can't help but feel the tension in our home. My wife and I love each other, but this is a rift neither of us wanted. She worries I'm being too permissive, that I'm letting grief cloud my judgment. I worry that she's letting fear and denial keep our daughter from living fully while she still can. Sometimes, I wonder if we're both right. The other day, my daughter asked if she could try a nicer kind of vodka. She laughed and said, if I'm going to do this, I want to know what the good stuff tastes like. There was no guilt in her voice, just curiosity, just a normal teenage girl's wish, made heavier by the knowledge that time is running out. I keep thinking about something another commenter said. Vices are only vices because they're bad for a long life. When you know the jig is up, there's nothing wrong with a little indulgence. That line has been echoing in my head because it's true. In any other world, I'd be protecting her from long-term consequences. But in this world, the long-term isn't part of the equation. And yet, it's not all about substances. She's talked about concerts she wants to go to, foods she wants to try, places she wants to see. And I want to make those happen. But I also know that for her, part of the experience is tasting the things she's been told she couldn't. Feeling the freedom of breaking the rules without fear of punishment. So here I am, walking this impossible line between father and friend, between protector and accomplice. When I first wrote about this online, I braced myself for judgment. I expected people to call me reckless, irresponsible, a bad parent. Instead, I was met with compassion, with stories that mirrored ours, with voices saying, "Let her have it, let her live, you'll never regret it." And maybe that's the heart of it, that in this chapter of our lives, regret will come from the moments we didn't take, not the ones we did. So, am I the asshole? Because I'm letting my terminally ill 16-year-old daughter drink, smoke, and vape under my supervision. Not to hurt her, but to let her taste the life she's losing. If you're still here, I want to tell you something as the host of this channel. Stories like this are heavy. They make you think about your own life, your own rules, your own lines in the sand. It's easy to talk about what's right or wrong in the abstract. It's a lot harder when you're staring at a calendar that's running out of pages. What I take from this story is that love can look different depending on the moment you're in. Sometimes love means setting boundaries. Sometimes it means throwing them away. And sometimes it means standing in the discomfort of a choice because you believe it will give someone you love a better ending. If you were in this father's shoes, what would you do? Would you hold the line? Or would you break it for the sake of joy? Let me know. Because in the end, these are the questions that tell us who we are.